Hi, I'm Denise. This is my daughter, Rebecca. We thank you for your wonderful faith. Your faith, your family's, and your friends' faith has blessed my family so much. We are sending you this short video because a dear friend of mine, Donna, suggested this as the best way for Rebecca and I to share with you what your faith has done for us.
Hi, I'm Ed. I'm Rebecca's father. That's really who I'm known as these days. You recall about 20 years ago, on September 5th, 1995, we had a dramatic and horrible event happen to us. Rebecca, during birth, died during the birth process and was dead for 35 minutes and resuscitated. I was rushed off with her to another hospital, leaving Denise by herself. And there, Rebecca and I waited to find out what was going to happen. The doctors told us she would not make it. During this time, both my mother and my mother-in-law started a prayer tree all over the East Coast and the Midwest, where people prayed for Rebecca and for a good outcome. I told my mother she had already been dead for 35 minutes, she had a flat EEG, and she would need a true miracle. And my mother said, God is in the miracle business. So we prayed and we worked and we prayed, and I stayed with Rebecca throughout that time while Denise was at the other hospital by herself, wondering what was happening. Rebecca lasted 6 days on life support with a flat EEG, and on the last day we had to make a decision of what to do, whether she would die on her own at some point or she could die in our arms with our love. We opted for that last one, and that day we went to church. We had a very special prayer read to us by Father Bland, and it was a very moving prayer by the whole parish. After that, we went to the hospital, dressed Rebecca in her prettiest outfit, put a bow in her hair, went in a really tiny room with a nurse, and we did it. We took her off life support, we held her in our arms, and we waited, and we prayed. Rebecca stopped breathing twice. The second time, she passed. We held her, of course, and we noticed that her lips had turned from purple to pink again. And I asked the nurse what had happened, and she said, I don't know, this has never happened before. We held Rebecca for the day, we went through the day, we didn't know what was happening, and at 10 o'clock that night, we literally put her to bed, we kissed her goodnight, and she opened her eyes, started moving her arms and legs, and crying. What happened and why? Rebecca told us that it was everyone's prayers that brought her back from heaven. Yes, she remembers heaven very well. In fact, Rebecca wrote her autobiography as a class assignment when she was 8 years old in 3rd grade, and again when she was 11 years old in 5th grade. Listen to what she wrote as read by her sister Melissa. The illustrations were also done by Melissa when she was 10 years old.
Hi, I'm Melissa Nemeth, and I'm Rebecca's younger sister, and here is her 3rd grade autobiography. I'm Rebecca Marie. I'm 8 years old. I love my mom and dad. My brother Eric is a clown, and I wish I was like Melissa because her friends play with her. I went to heaven through 2 big white doors. Jesus told me to go back and teach people to pray. I have 2 cats, Goldie and Tiger, and I love to swim in the pool all summer. And here's her 5th grade autobiography. I was born on September 5th, 1995 in Sacramento. When I was born, I died. I remember heaven. I heard my mom cry and my dad cry. I saw God. I fell from heaven then. I go back to mom to help her to pray. I teach my mom to pray, to believe that God cares for us. I have dreams that I die with mom. Many of my dreams are of mom living with me in heaven.
That Christmas, I sent an email prayer request to you asking you to fulfill her Christmas wish for a voice. I requested prayers because, as you learned in Rebecca's autobiography, her mission on earth is to teach others to pray. Once again, you and your friends sent her over 1,000 emails, and some of you teachers made students do class projects. Even the public schools responded with projects. Her Christmas was blessed because of the outpouring of prayers. One person wrote from India, I don't know who he is and who knows him, but he wrote something so profound. Rebecca doesn't need a voice. She is already heard by her prayers. Why am I giving you this story? Well, hang tight. In 2002, Ed and I took our life savings and built a hyperbaric oxygen clinic for Rebecca and her friends. It was built solely to give life-changing medical care to brain-injured children. It is simply pressurized pure oxygen that does wonders to heal brain injuries. I was a doubting Thomas, but now I am a believer of it. In fact, Ed, my husband, funded an autism study with the Mind Institute. I remember during that study when a parent came in tears because her autistic son, who was very challenged in so many ways, for the first time in her life, she heard her son say a complete sentence, "I love you, Mom." Well, Ed hadn't stopped there. He has given over $500,000 of treatments to children and adults who desperately need it over the years. Everything in our lives has come to a crashing halt as of June 19, 2015, in so many ways. A greedy doctor and a businessman worked together, and within 1 year they embezzled hundreds of thousands of dollars from the clinic, leaving us with clinic bills, causing the building to go into foreclosure by the bank after 13 years of successful operations. Some of you came to our side and tried to buy the building from the bank, but the bank would not accept your offers. Who knows why? So now we have no clinic for the kids, no corporate offices for my business, Spectrum Events, and no way to rebuild it. The greatest challenge is that I am now diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder from the months of stress and attacks by the embezzlers, on top of the ongoing stress of caring for my quadriplegic, nonverbal daughter. The irony of this injury is that hyperbarics is the best cure. As my health has weakened to the point now, I shake uncontrollably. I have no strength to lift my daughter. I can't even change her clothes. I can't get up from the floor very easily after I watch TV with her. I can't walk well because my left leg and my arm won't move unless I really concentrate on moving them. And as you can tell, I shake uncontrollably, which I don't know why. I'm so distraught over this that I can't care for Rebecca. This adds so much stress onto Ed that he has to take over the jobs I can't do. I haven't stopped looking for a solution to my health. And by not stopping, I learned within the past week that besides PSTD, post-traumatic stress disorder, I have Lyme disease. We all know it's from a tick bite. Mine is chronic and has blossomed from the stress and the PTSD. The problem is many patients get sicker before they get better because as the Lyme bacteria dies off, it releases toxins in your body. No one knows how these toxins will react to each individual. I started treatments yesterday. If I get any bad reactions, then I could be bedridden for months or even a year. I have employees who, without the clinic, rely on me for their paycheck. I have a disabled daughter who needs my care. I have to work to make sure my family eats. As I said, Donna gave me this video idea because so many of you asked me what you can do for me. Well, those of you who know me, I know that I never ask for anything. But we are living Rebecca's mission and purpose to ask for prayers. Ed and I are flying 100% on faith. We know God will provide. As a friend of mine said in his darkest moments, Denise, take a leap of faith. So please pray with us now with Father Leon so that our prayers can help you with your own divine purpose and struggles. God bless you.
Merciful and loving God, we thank you for all the blessings you shower upon us every day. We should never be taking them for granted, but bend our knees and express our gratitude and appreciation. You give us different gifts, precious, unique, like Rebecca is, to her parents, her siblings, people in our community of Good Shepherd, Elgrove, and beyond, even further than our country is. Continue to teach us through her love, through her very unique ability to help us to communicate with you and to feel your presence, despite of difficult moments we have to go through. We count your blessings. We ask, continue to keep Rebecca in your care. Bless her with your peace. Continue to use her as an instrument in your hands to teach us about your unconditional love for us. And may your blessing come upon Rebecca and all those who dearly, dearly love her. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Hi, Ed again. I just want to thank every single one of you for your prayers. It means a lot to us. As you know, that's Rebecca's purpose on earth, just as my purpose on earth is to care for Rebecca. We thought we'd give you a little bonus since you're praying for us and all of our friends. We could give you some insights that Rebecca has given us over the years of her experiences in heaven. And this is accumulation of some of the accumulation over 20 years of time. Heaven is filled with love that cannot be comprehended by us on earth. Heaven is filled with light that is much brighter than the light here on earth. The hardest thing to comprehend about heaven is time. While Rebecca was in a coma and in heaven from 3:15 Tuesday morning on September 5th, 1995, when she died, until September 10th at 10 p.m. Sunday night, when she awoke from a coma, that's 6 days and 5 nights, her existence in heaven was more like a number of years than a few days. It's not a distinct number of years. What she said is instead it's a very, very long time, like 7 or 8 years. Rebecca had a house in heaven. She had a job and responsibilities. Rebecca was an administrator of guardian angels. Now this is a very difficult word for her to spell, but she couldn't spell, normally she would spell out in text form and say manager or MGR. Instead she spelled out the entire word administrator. I don't know the significance of that. But why else would she do that? Rebecca had a voice in heaven. She could walk, she could run, but she did not run. Rebecca knew when she was told to return to us that she would not be able to speak and she would not be able to walk. She knew that her existence would be like when she was returning to us. But she did it still because she loved us and because Jesus gave her a purpose to teach people to pray. Rebecca learned things in heaven that she could never know here on earth. And me, with a person with a scientific background, I always tested her when we had an opportunity. The first time I really tested her was when my father passed away, and I went to my mother's house for the memorial, and I saw a lot of pictures of our family and my father's family that I'd never seen before. One of the pictures was of a beautiful young woman who was about 18 years old. When I saw this picture, I asked my sister Carol, who is this beautiful young woman? She said, it's Grandma. And I was amazed because the only picture I'd ever seen of my grandparents was a single picture. They were in about their 65 years old each, in the backyard of the New Bedford house in the mid-50s, standing in front of the Buick in the garage. That's the only picture, that's the only way I ever knew them. They had passed before I was born. And I saw this picture and she was beautiful. I asked Carol who it was and she told me, and she said, I asked her for a copy of that picture, and she said, sure, I'll give you a copy of that, but you have to ask Rebecca if she met her in heaven. I said, well, why? She said, well, I know Grandma's a faithful Christian, and she went to heaven. I said, okay. So when I returned home, I brought in my luggage, I took the picture out of the luggage, I didn't say anything else to Rebecca, and I just showed her that picture. And I said, Rebecca, do you know who this is? And she wrote, yes, Gramps' mom. And I said, how do you know? Heaven. And I said, I asked her, did you meet her in heaven? She said, yes. I said, did you talk to her? She said, yes. Or she wrote, I should say. And I asked her, what did she say? And then Rebecca shut up because apparently we cannot speak or tell things that are said in heaven from the dead. I did the same test when my mother's brother died last winter. I found a picture, or was given a picture, of my mother's father who had drowned in a fishing accident in 1932 when my mother was 3 years old. My mother had never really met him, and I had never seen a picture of him. It was one of those things that was just lost in our family. Somehow my cousin came across a picture of his wedding day and put it on her Facebook page, and I looked at it and I downloaded it, and I put it into my camera and I showed it to Rebecca. And I simply said, Rebecca, do you know who this is? And it's a picture I'd never seen before. And Rebecca said, yes. I said, who is it? And it's very interesting because she said, it's Grandpa, meaning, and I asked her, who's that? Nana's dad. And it's interesting because my father was always Gramps to her, and yet she called him Grandpa, which is really in keeping with that side of the family. And I asked her some questions about seeing Grandpa in heaven. And she said that she knew him in heaven and they worked in similar jobs. I'm not quite sure what that really meant, but I asked her if there's anything else that he had told her about a life when they were together in heaven. She said yes, he was terrified when he drowned. Now that she could have guessed because she had heard that he had drowned before in our family discussions, and I think everybody thinks of drowning as a terrifying experience, but it's a very interesting thing for her to point out. There are other things about heaven that Rebecca's told us. There are animals in heaven, not animals we know here from our life as our pets. Instead, these are animals from heaven themselves. They live forever like us, and they can communicate with us. The sky in heaven is pink, the leaves are purple. I don't know what that means. We eat and sleep in heaven and drink. And yes, even though I thought sleeping in heaven was weird too, the food is delicious apparently, more delicious than even my mother's cooking. These days, Rebecca's convinced we're near the end of the church age, very near the end. We never taught Rebecca the idea of a rapture or any of the prophecies or anything like that, but Rebecca's convinced that this will happen very soon in the next 1 to 5 years. I don't know if she's prophetic, but it's her opinion. I asked her if she and I could rapture together, and if the first thing I could hear would be her voice. She did not think so, because she said the first thing we'll experience is being with Christ. Those are some of the things that Rebecca taught us about her experiences in heaven. I thought you might want to hear them and ponder them in their significance. We greatly thank you for all the prayers you've given to us, all the support you've given us over the years, and your participation in our experience with Rebecca. Thank you again, and great blessings for you and your family.